Good morning. Good morning. I am really excited this morning for this live Q&A. So thanks so much for being here. And if you want to go ahead and throw some questions down in the comments, then I will get those answered. So I'm really excited about this today and about everything going on for the rest of the day. We've got a few closings lined up. I think we're closing on 3 homes today. So I am thrilled about that. And the best part of that is all of them are rent ready. So all we have to do once we get them is just list them on the market and find somebody, a happy family, willing to go in there and take great care of it. All right, let's see what we got. Questions. Any questions? Let's see. Got some work done on your main house. Just found out his license got revoked in the middle of the job and then did not ever pull permits. I have no idea what that's like. Neither of those things are real things here in our market. Contractors do not have to be licensed in the state of Ohio. And then you really don't have to pull permits very often, ever. So we actually, one of the homes that we're buying is in a historic district. And I've never purchased a home in a historic district before, but it seemed like a really good deal. So we figured we should take advantage of it. So I started calling around to the people at the city. And I know some other investors have talked down about having properties in historic districts because what you could and couldn't do. But after being on the phone with the city for a while, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process. You do have to get what's called like a certificate of approval or authority, maybe, for exterior work only. They are only concerned with the exterior of the home, not the interior. So you really don't have to pull permits on the interior. I think the only time that we have regularly had to pull permits has been if we are doing anything structural, as far as like taking out a wall and putting a beam in, or if the gas lines or the electric have been off for quite some time, and then we have to get them turned back on. So a while back, when all of the homes that we were purchasing had been vacant for over a decade, all the gas lines had been retired and the electric had been off for so long that the city required, in order to restore those utilities, that we get everything inspected. That was really the only time. Insurances? No. Insurances do not care at all. Insurances don't have anything to do with permits. And then since Ohio doesn't require that general contractors be licensed, it's not even an insurance question here in Ohio. That's one of the crazy things about insurance. I mean, insurance is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So what's true about insurance in your state isn't necessarily true about insurance in my state. Are you in New York, New Jersey? I kind of forget. All right, if your property was due to close but builder has not finished, can you not accept an extension, and can I cancel the purchase contract and get earnest money back? Yep, absolutely. I think so. Extensions are always voluntary. You don't have to sign it, and your earnest money is yours, and you did nothing wrong. They were the ones that couldn't back up the things that they said that they could do. So yeah, I think that's hopefully that's pretty clear cut, and hopefully they do the right thing without getting the court of law involved. Let me know if you want to talk about that some more. I'd be happy to. Hey, Tam. Is becoming out-of-state landlord smart move? I live in California, so everything is dependent on my property managers if I want to invest in Ohio. I think being an out-of-state landlord is for the very bold individuals. I think so. I guess that's a two-part answer. So, okay, if I were a Californian and I made the type of money that Californians do, then I would be doing my very best to limit my expenses as much as possible and take all of that high W-2 Californian job and investing it in markets comparable to Ohio. All of the out-of-state landlords that I know that do a phenomenal job regularly come back and visit this area. So, they're probably here once a quarter, maybe twice a year, and they are looking at everything, making sure their contractors are, doing everything they said they were going to do. And also, in addition to regularly visiting here, they have found one person that they really trust, that is willing to go above and beyond for them, that is truly, truly out for their best interest. And I think that is what really makes it successful. And the majority of the times, that one person that they find that they can trust is not the property manager, but rather a contractor that is independent from the management company. And I think that's important because if you're utilizing a management company, if you're out of state, I mean, when I use a management company, when things are going well, you can't possibly beat it. It is very synchronous. Everything is super, awesome. You're making money and you are getting your gross rent less the management fee. But as soon as things start happening or going sideways, and there are charges that you don't necessarily agree with, there's a condition of like the quality of the work isn't up to par with what you hoped it would be or what you expected to pay for. Or if, they say that things happened and you can't find any proof that those things happened. I mean, you really start to realize when you use a property management company, you are giving away so much control of the very important pieces of your business. So because this is America, because they are private businesses, you really don't have any course of action, accountability. They have no obligation to be transparent. They have no obligation to, provide you any documentation or proof or reason as to why they did it. So your only recourse truly is to either fire them, which is a little bit reactive if, there are substantial charges that you don't agree with, and then taking them to court. I mean, that's really about it. So circling that back to finding a contractor independent of them, I mean, it's just a matter of having a little bit of checks and balances. So if the contractor independent of the management company is the one that's doing all of the renovations, all the repairs, all the maintenance calls, then, the contractor is going to talk to the resident just the same as a management company. And it's just a little bit more checks and balance. I kind of forget the reason that I went on that little rant. Man, thank you guys for being so patient with me. Sometimes I just think my brain is the worst. I hope I brought all of that back to something that was helpful to you, Tam. Here in Florida, selling a house would be a nightmare without permits. I think it has to do with the new money coming in from New York and California. Probably. Doesn't everything come back to New York and California, though? Like all of America's problems? Oh, I love America, and I also love those states, but thank you, man. Thank you for watching all of them. I really appreciate it. Your comments make me really happy. You've been watching some old ones too. You've really been going through the catalog. I really appreciate it. I think in theory, permits are probably a really good thing. And I mean, we have some properties where there's one area of town that you could buy properties here in Ohio where it's you can tell that the people that lived there did the work themselves. It was kind of like a hey, I'll buy the case of beer if you guys come over and help me build this addition or replumb my house, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Very poor construction. I think they're going to fall over any second. That's me being dramatic. They're not going to fall over, But when you go in, open up the walls, try to fix things, it's just like, man, this is horrible craftsmanship. Who would ever do this? I think permits are good for preventing stuff like that, and I'm thankful for permits on that end. But at the same time, I really don't like overreaching government. So, like, if it's your house, you should be able to do whatever you want to your house and sell it on the free market to whoever you want to. Got into this, and so far it's very uncomfortable to do so. Luckily, I have family in the area I purchased, so I'll be traveling there a few times a year, and finding a property management has been hard. Yes, it has. I agree. But I think even if you were local, finding a good property management company would be hard. And that is one of the things that I often talk about when I am talking to my insurance clients that are also out-of-state investors. And they say, you know what, it's just so hard to find contractors. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of by the property management company. It's just like, well, I'm local and I feel the same way. So I think this is the hardest part of real estate investing, regardless of where you are. I think the only caveat is it's a lot easier to do property management yourself if you are close to the property. But again, if you find a good contractor that you're willing to, work with and that you trust, I mean, property management is getting the technology and the software that's out there. It's getting so incredibly easy to manage the properties yourself. I mean, when we took over property management in June, we had no idea what to expect. And surprisingly, it hasn't been nearly as difficult as we expected it to be. So the software, we use Appfolio. They do have like a 50 property minimum. So if you have less than 50 properties, Appfolio is probably not the answer for you. I think I want to say Buildium, but that doesn't really feel right. That might be the case. Buildium, I think, is a good alternative. I have a few friends that are using like apartments.com, which used to be Cozy. Apartments.com bought Cozy, I guess, which was probably a good move on their part. Permit costs increased as well this past year, and Cincy, the permit office, had the nerve to say even replacing the drywall requires a permit. I'm telling you, I think some funny things are going to happen just being reactionary to all of this pandemic stuff. We'll see what happens. I just think a lot of money has been put out there that needs to be recouped somehow, and permits are a good way to take people's money without really providing them any services. I'm sorry that you have to get a permit for drywall. That's very unfortunate. When you say replacing the drywall, are you talking about repairing too? Does repairing and replacing take permits? That's very unfortunate. But hey, while we're here, we're 16 minutes in. There are 10 people on. I would like to share something awesome with you all. Last night, we put a property under contract, and I was looking at pictures of the property, and my son was next to me, and he glanced over, and he looked at a couple of the pictures as I was swiping through, and he said, "Oh, wow, that's a really nice house." And he's 4. So I said, "Oh, yeah, buddy, why is that?" And he looked at the pictures a little bit closer, and he said, well, nothing is broken. Everything is really clean, and everything looks very brand new." Oh, that made me really happy. I mean, that was a pretty accurate assessment. And I know it's pretty rudimentary, but still, he's 4 years old, and just glancing over, looking at the pictures, just seeing the pictures I was looking at on my phone, he made an assessment about the property. So that's a big win. I mean, I've been taking him around to properties since he was 2, and most of them, especially when we first started, that's not true. I went through this phase where all of the properties that I was acquiring needed like full rehab. So I took him to properties that were, they had holes in the floor. They had holes in the roof that had been there for quite some time. So everything was like wet. Grass was growing in some of them, vines leaching in. So it's just fun that he was able to quickly make that assessment. Pandemic really did bring the money. People had nothing to do but work on their houses. That's true. I'm not getting a permit for drywall, but I have the walls open to replumb, rewire, so I included that in those instead. That makes sense. That makes sense. Awesome. Yeah, I mean permits are a thing, and unfortunately, you know, whatever the government says is what goes. So that's, I guess, it's part of the game, but it's still a good game. I think it's going to be a very long time before the government can possibly impose anything on the rental property industry to make it not worthwhile. I think that's going to be a very long time, and I think that's going to be a very uphill battle. So I still say, even with all these little things happening, you're still best off investing in real estate. I'm a new immigrant, 10 months here. Dude, that's so awesome, man. I really appreciate you. I've got a special spot in my heart for first generation immigrants for no reason other than, uh, you know, the work ethic associated generally. Work for 1099, so I think it's going to be hard to get a mortgage. Yes, it sure will be. Not anything to do with you being an immigrant, but because working on 1099 basis is like one of the more risky things that you can do, because there's like no strings attached to your employer. They don't have, they don't have to really provide any reason to fire you. They just have to not hire you for another contract. So generally the banks want to see about 2 to 3 years worth of 1099 income before they really start trusting you. What do you recommend to build a credit history one more year to get benefits from first-time home buyers? Let's see here. I think that's a really good question, and I think I'm going to steer you in a different direction. I do not think that the first home that you buy should be, okay, let me think about this really quickly. Okay, if you really want to make a bunch of noise, I see, is that a dog or a kid? I should filter myself a little bit, huh? Yeah, that's a dog, not a kid. So you don't have any kids yet. I would recommend that you house hack, use your first time home buyer credits or whatever you want to call it to buy like a 2 to 4 family property, live in one of the units and rent out all the others. I think that would be an absolute power play that's really going to like set you off like for years to come. I think like 5 years after making that decision, you are going to be in a completely different financial position based on nothing other than that decision alone. A good friend of mine, he just bought a 4-unit using his VA loan because he was in the Army before he moved up here. And not only did he get rid of his $600 per month rent payment, but he also added $1,200 per month to his income. I did a video about that. I think it's called House Hacking Success is what the thumbnail says. So I would say do that. Or what my wife and I did. Now, we had kids and I was looking for a 4-unit, but all of them were just too small. I think the largest 4-unit that we found was a 3-bed, 1-bath, but it was in a area that we weren't comfortable having our kids in. So we didn't find one. So what we did instead of house hacking was we found the cheapest house that we could possibly buy that didn't need any work. So we bought in an area that, has like a good school district and all of that stuff. So we bought a house for, I think it was $60 or $69,000, and our mortgage payment was like $450 a month. So that made a really big impact on us. And I think that's similar to house hacking. I recorded one video for first-time home buyers as well. And the whole point that I made in that was, if you are going to buy a house, your first home, there's a very, very slim chance that that is going to be your dream home or your forever home. So do not analyze it as such. Don't, do these HGTV home things where you're like imagining, building this in the future for your kids, or imagine this room being, tens of thousands of dollars more expensive than it has to be. I think you should really analyze your first home through the lens of a rental property. And we are going to live here for X number of months or X number of years until we have the ability to save more money and buy another property and then do it again. So we now rent that property out for about $1,000 per month, and the payment on it is $450 per month. But, we bought it to live in, But when we were purchasing it, we were analyzing it through the lens of, will this be a good rental property? And I think that's what you should do. And especially as you are in the phase of building credit, send me an email, man. I would really like to introduce you to another first generation immigrant that I know, who's doing phenomenal things down in the Cincinnati area. And I think you two would probably get along pretty well, and also be able to like help each other through the getting on your feet stages of this. And he is doing exactly what it is that I am about to say, which is, your first time home buyer, you might have, I don't know. I'm not big on the first time home buyer scene. I'm not sure how many grants or incentives there are, but I would be cautious of accepting any of those because of the strings that they may have. Because if you just do a conventional loan, you might have to put 3.5% to 5% down for a home to live in. And then you have to live there for 6 months to a year, and then you could do it again. So if you buy your first home, live there for 6 months, you've analyzed it as a rental property, so you know it's going to knock it out of the park once you move out and rent it out. And then when you move out, you can use another conventional home loan, since you will be an owner occupant and you will live there. So 6 months to a year from now you have two properties, and you only have to put 3.5% to 5% down on both of them. So that would get you pretty far ahead, because you could just do it once per year until you max out your Fannie Freddie loans. And since from your picture, unless you chose to put your dog in the icon instead of your kid, if I knew all of the things that I know now before I had kids, I would have moved a lot more. I hope that's helpful. And the other guy that I want to introduce you to, he is all moved into his first home, and he is in the process of buying his second home and turning the first one into a rental. And he already cleared everything with his lender. His lender was on board with it, had no problems with it. So I would really love to introduce you guys. Do you buy any house, or you stay away from a particular number of years the house was built? I have houses that were built in 1885, so they say. There are a lot of homes that I have that are really old, and nobody really knows when they were built. So the city of Dayton does this fun thing where if they didn't know what year the house was built, they just put 1900. So we've got a lot of homes that were built in 1900. I don't stay away from them. I've only got one home that was built in like the 1971, I think, and that was the Project Firehouse. And that was a rare deal that I was able to get. That was just one of these right place, right time type deals. The most of the housing stock here in Dayton was built in the 20s. Most of my portfolio was built in the 20s. So most of my portfolio is over 100 years old. But I don't really think it matters. And I think where our economy is, so just speaking about Ohio, and specifically speaking about Dayton, not Columbus and not Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati and Columbus are starting to turn, and that it now makes more sense to build than it does to renovate. And I've got a few clients that are starting to like knock down homes in those areas to build new ones. But Dayton is not that way. It still makes more sense to buy old properties and put new things inside of them than it does building completely new structures. So I think building a very small cookie cutter home would cost around 85 grand. That's the number that I've been given by a couple people. Realistically, it's probably going to be more than that once you start getting into things. And I mean, it costs maybe 40 grand to redo most things in the house. So it still makes a lot more sense to buy older properties and make them new. The things that I do my best to stay away from are just characteristics of older homes. So field stone or sandstone basements in this area, I mean, they're not bad. They've been there for well over 100, some almost 200 years. So it's not like they're going to fall down, but They are not waterproof at all, and nothing you could really do to them for any reasonable amount of money could ever make them waterproof. So like that's the thing. There are certain character traits of these older homes that I avoid. But we also just bought one property. It was built in 1890. We just closed on it yesterday afternoon, and it has a block basement. Now it's not the like field or sandstone, whatever you want to call it. It's not like the small layers or skinny block. It's the rugged. It's like what cinder blocks were before they were actually real. So they have like the rugged rock looking outside. They're kind of curved, but that's a very dry basement. It's a really big house, and it's a block house. It's a brick and block home. So the walls are extraordinarily solid. It is probably the most solid home that I've ever been in. Like I took my oldest son, Jackson, and I also took my oldest daughter to the property, and there's a finished attic there, and I had them jump as hard as they could and as many times as they could on the second floor and also in the finished attic. And I mean, you could stand a couple feet away from them and hardly be able to feel it. So it's all wood floors. I'm pretty sure all of the floors are level. All the door jambs were still square. It's a really beautiful property. I'll do a video on it because I really like that property. Another long answer to a very simple, short question. I apologize, but you guys are patient. I wouldn't do hard loans yet. I would, it's a dog. Man, I hope that rant was very helpful for you. Let's see if you said anything else. Let me scroll down. I thought first-time homebuyer programs work only one time a life. Well, they do. But the one-time homebuyer programs, generally those are some sort of, so conventional loans, owner-occupied, you only have to put 3.5 to 5% down. And the first-time homebuyer programs help you mitigate that 3 to 5% even further. So when people say first-time homebuyers and like grants or things that are available to help first-time homebuyers, they're like government programs or nonprofit programs where they pay for the down payment for your first home. But again, generally those have strings attached to them that I wouldn't be down for. Like that's something you should read the fine print. That would be once in a lifetime stuff. So maybe before you buy any homes, you should look into those programs and figure out what the fine print of those are. But rest assured that you can buy as many 3.5 to 5% homes as you'd like. You can only have 10 Fannie Freddie loans at a time, but if you do the strategy that we just talked about, where you only buy one property every 6 months to a year, then you're talking about 9-10 years, and with market appreciation to fully utilize all the loans available to you. So then you look at your first couple properties that you purchase. Once you're able to do that strategy for 10 properties, you can probably do like a cash out refinance and take them down to a 75% loan to value or less loan. And then that would free up your Fannie Freddie loans and you would be able to continually do it. So in theory, you can do that strategy in perpetuity. Do you believe that the government will be successful in removing the 1031 exchange? And what is your opinion on what to do instead? I don't think it's a good idea for me to talk about my opinions of the government and what they can or cannot do. And I don't even think they know. I don't think anybody knows. But I do know that I'm against sitting on the sidelines, and I'm against sitting around and waiting. And, the kind of catch-22 part about the government, and this is me just speaking from my personal experiences from my time in law enforcement, the government is such a very slow, massive, slow turning machine. I mean, the government's not known for being agile or quick. So if this were to happen, it would be several years from now, and we would have several months worth of heads up, if not years worth of notice that this would be going away. But I mean, I don't even really know that many people that use 1031 exchanges. I get that they are like a good tool to, reposition your assets and acquire more properties. But at the same time, I mean, the 1031 thing already has more stipulations than I care to abide by. I'm being really salty this morning. Uh, I need to watch myself. I don't know why I'm being so salty. I just like the rant that I went on last week or 2 weeks ago about 401ks and IRAs. Like if it's a government thing, I really don't want much to do with it. But I guess I shouldn't say things like that either. Man, I'm on a roll. I need to calm down. I love America, absolutely, with all my heart. I work as a logistics driver, so I could get a W-2 to have a steady income on paper to get my loans for my rentals. My main job is house hacking. Your main job is house hacking, but banks love W-2s. Hold on. I work as a logistics driver, so I could get a W-2 to have steady income on paper to get my loans for my rentals. I approve of that. That's a really good idea. But my main job is house hacking. Your main job isn't house hacking. You don't spend 40 hours a week doing house hacking stuff. Your favorite stream of income is house hacking, perhaps. Yeah, I would. With the mindset, with all of the things that you just said, you are going to be extraordinarily successful. It doesn't matter how much money you make as a W-2 if you appropriately utilize all of the funds in excess of your living expenses. So the whole secret to building wealth is spending as little money as possible and intentionally investing as much money as possible. So you're on the right track. Keep the W-2. You're not going to have to do it for long. The snowball from rentals is phenomenal. One thing that I would suggest, let me put up my little disclaimer. I'm not a attorney. I'm not a CPA. I don't know. You should reach out to them and really get their opinions on things. I lost my track when I was looking for that banner. CPA, W-2 income, attorney. LLC, establishing LLC history as quickly as possible. Because so if you were able to quit claim your home into and orchestrate the income into the LLC rather than your name, then you could start filing for tax returns for your LLC, which you would thank yourself for 2 to 3 years later when you're looking for a loan strictly from the LLC, not your personal income, and the bank wants to see 2 years worth of tax returns, because between 2 years and now, you're going to be considered like a new venture in the bank's eyes. And just like we were talking about with this guy, what's your name, man? What can I call you? Because I don't know how to read that. Yeah, establishing the 2 years worth of like credit history, not credit history, but tax returns to prove that you can sustain this type of making money. That would be best. (1865 to 1910). Yeah, Ohio's a unique spot. I mean, yeah, Ohio is old. The Rust Belt. We were booming back in the day, especially back in these days. Like the one that was 1890 that I just bought, the brick one. It sits right on the river. It's beautiful. Those attic views, the finished attic, and then also like the second floor views, amazing. Now, my brother, who lives in Jacksonville, when he came up here, he always likes to say, "Oh my goodness, you guys call that a river? What is that, like a creek?" But he's a river snob, apparently. No, you didn't, but it's gorgeous. Project Firehouse is doing very well. It should be done. The entire house should be done by the end of next week. So excited. It's gorgeous. We got the cabinets in. The bathroom should be finished later today. And then it's just putting in the kitchen. And then The contractor that I'm using on that job is my favorite contractor, and he is meticulous in how he leaves a job. So it often takes him like a week's time just to clean everything up. I mean, he hires cleaners to go in there, and when he leaves a job, it's rent ready. He's even like put flowers and mulch out front. He's even done like landscaping to make it look real pretty, so that I could just list it right on the market. Most of the homes in hire, yeah, you're right. Ohio, what was it? The Industrial Revolution, GM, Chi Mikey. That's a cool name. I'll be retiring soon. Congratulations. My wife and I will have pensions and Social Security, but our income will be less than now. We have money in retirement accounts for closing costs. Do you see any lender issues? No. I think banks love pensions because that's where their real lifeblood is, right? Yeah, I think banks and pensions go very well together. Hey, that's what we're doing. Salty is good since it's truthful. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I think you'll do just fine. What are your plans for retirement, though? What are you going to do now? Are you going to start like buying some rental properties? That would be fun. Main home is in a trust. Each property will be individually LLC. You're hardcore, man. You are hardcore. That's gonna make your CPA extraordinarily happy, keeping all those books separate, filing all those separate tax returns. I mean, I get it from a liability perspective, but if you just have a good insurance policy, you would mitigate the majority of your exposure. So, all right. Any other questions after all those tangents that I just went on? Let's see. What do you think about starting with foreclosures in bad neighborhoods? I would do it, probably. I would do it. I would be very selective about the bad neighborhoods. And I mean, that's how we got started is, I mean, a lot of investors in the area. So here's my approach to investing is I do my, like, if I were to do this and if I were to say, look, there's a lot of foreclosures in this bad neighborhood, I would try to figure out why it's bad. I would try to figure out, how bad is it really, right? Like you drive through a place, you judge it by, the lack of ownership, the boarded up homes, the grown men on children's bikes, those kinds of things. But like, where is it stemming from? And if you can identify where it's stemming from, do you have the means to solve that problem? Is it primarily a bad neighborhood because of the boarded up homes and, the broken window theory is just making things progressively worse? So the first neighborhood that we really went into, I liked it a lot when I drove through it. There's a lot of boarded up homes, a lot of vacant commercial property, but I got really good feelings out of it. And when I started talking to other investors, the majority of them strongly despised that area. I bought one property there and I was able to rent it out immediately. I never got any complaints from the residents of that property about the area. I rented it out for above market, and we just slowly started getting all of the boarded up homes in that neighborhood that we possibly could and fixing them up. So now, there was one street in particular, it had 2 boarded up homes, and I was able to get both of those. And now the other homes on that street had a bunch of pride of ownership. So I was able to purchase the boarded up homes, fix them up, make them look even nicer than the neighboring properties. And now that whole street has pride of ownership. At the end of the street, there was one commercial property that didn't have the greatest of reputations. And as Lewis Porter Jr. Can attest to, we just closed on that property not long ago. And now we are going to do our best to turn that property around and increase the value of that street in particular by taking away all of the negative things that were affecting that street. So I think if you are going to go into a bad neighborhood, you should have the appropriate mindset. You should try to determine why it's bad and what are the things that you can do over 10, 15, 20 years to help that neighborhood not be bad, right? And we're not talking about gentrification. We're not talking about anything negative or condescending towards anyone. We're talking about taking hurt homes and making them like functioning units of society again. We're talking about taking community issues and investing our money and encouraging other people to invest their money in making that part of the world a bit nicer. So one of my favorite things to think about is the fella named Donald Brin, who is, I think he is America's richest real estate investor. And I think he built like the Irvine, Orange County, California area. I know that he has been investing in real estate for over 50 years, and he hasn't done a single transaction outside of Orange County, California. That's what I ascertained from some YouTube videos and YouTube interviews that I watched with him. So that could or could not be true. But I find a lot of comfort and in knowing that. I'm not saying Dayton is ever going to be in Orange County, California, but I'm just saying I'm being laser focused on making the quote unquote bad neighborhoods good, because it's just perception. Just perception. Hopefully so. Thank you. Oh no, Brown Sugar 111. Don't you say these words on this channel. I don't want anything to do with this type of mindset. There's so much competition and little inventory in Tennessee now. I'm trying to find a duplex, but I can't tell if I should wait until summer and hope for more inventory or change my strategy altogether. Brown Sugar 111. No. Never say anything like this again. So sure, there's competition. And sure, there's little inventory, but there is no shortage of opportunity. You should read some really good books that my computer is resting on, so I won't. I'd have to do too much. I'd mess up my whole setup. I'd make a lot of noise. Yeah, there's always opportunity. You just have to go out and find it. So if there's little inventory, that's great news. That means there's a lot of people that want to sell their home, that it would benefit for them to sell their home because there is such little inventory. They just need a little bit of encouragement from Brown Sugar 111 to go out and sell their home. So hop on PropStream, create some problems. Watch the PropStream tutorial that we just posted and click this link and get a 7-day free trial of PropStream and go out and find, tired landlords, people that have high equity in their home, properties that have distressed, they're a little bit distressed, that have some deferred maintenance on the exterior. Go out and be a playmaker, Brown Sugar 111, but don't sit around and say things like there's so much competition and there's so little inventory. That's what people that stay on the sidelines forever, that's what they say. This is a phenomenal opportunity because when you are saying and thinking those things, then there's a room full of other people that are saying and echoing those same sentiments. So they are all losing motivation, just like you are now. So all you have to do is put forth 10 times more effort, double down on the market that you want to invest in, identify an area and go after it. And you are going to be the only person that has ever reached out to the individual about selling their home. People are saying the same things here in my area about the competition and, the low inventory. And we have 17 properties under contract at the moment. And I talk to people, other investors every day that just say that they can't find anything. Who's right? Is there a boatload of opportunity out there, or is there no opportunity? My guess is a boatload. One of my favorite quotes is, the world is a mirror. Whatever you want to see from the world, that's exactly what you'll see. The ironic thing is those bad neighborhoods have the best upside, especially if they are in an opportunity zone. Yeah, I agree with that. It's going pretty well. We have it cleaned out now, and we have the electric. We had the electric inspected. The electric had been off for a couple months. So apparently on commercial properties, if the electric is off for more than 2 months, you have to get a new electrical inspection. So that inspection was done, we passed, and we got the place cleaned out. The clean out cost me $1,200. And that was a phenomenal price because this guy showed me his tickets from the dump. He hauled out over 10,500 pounds of trash from this place. I had no idea how much stuff was in there, and that was just like the trash out. That doesn't include. There's still wood panel everywhere on the walls in the previous commercial space. There's still the bar that's there. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet. One of my mentors suggested that its highest and best use would be me turning it into additional residential units. I have another gentleman that wants to come look at it and potentially turn it into a Mexican restaurant. That would make me very happy. We've thought about laundromats, coffee shops. I even thought about putting a little breakfast spot in there that I would be the grill operator at. I love cooking pancakes and eggs and bacon and sausage. But it just didn't seem like it seemed more of like a dream and a distraction than something that I should actually do. So everything's going well. We're still making progress on that. I appreciate it. And we're going to make a decision soon. I think worst case scenario, I'm going to turn it into my office. That's worst case though. Best case scenario, you know what though? Worst case, either my office or the commercial space is like 16 or 1,700 square feet. So we could either slice it up and put 2 units in there and make it a 4-unit building, or we could make it one giant luxury apartment unit, or I could make it my office. But I'm just little old Ryan Ingram. I don't need 1,700 square feet of space. See, Lewis Porter Jr., you ask me every Friday, and I'm thankful for it. But, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I understand banks look for 2 years of W-2 tax history when lending. If I were to change industry but stay in the same department, accounting, would I need 2 years history under the new job? Nope. Not from my understanding, but each banks make their own rules. I know I said it a few times on here, but he who has the gold makes the rules. So each bank has their own, I guess, threshold, tolerance, interpretation, whatever you want to call it, of what this means. So generally, you know, if you are an accountant and you change industries, but you're still an accountant, then that wouldn't restart that clock. I restarted my clock when I left law enforcement and went into insurance. And I had a few banks try really hard to convince the underwriters that they were almost the same thing, protecting assets. But no dice. The underwriters didn't buy it. Good and bad about HUD Home. The bad part is you would have to do some work. The bad part is the people that got kicked out of there lost their house. So, you know, they probably did a few funky things. Generally, there's some sort of vandalism that was done because people were salty. You know, we've bought HUD homes where demonic things were spray painted all over the walls. We bought HUD homes where peanut butter was spread all over the walls. That was a funny one because my wife was just like, how did you know it was peanut butter? And it wasn't until then that I realized that I am a peanut butter identifying expert. It was pretty cut and dry, but I guess it's one of those things you had to be there. We've had HUD homes where, you know, people went through and cut the electric at the base, so it is impossible to fix without rewiring the whole home. The base of the floorboards, you know, taking the copper, breaking walls for no reason, stuff like that. That's the bad part. The good part is you're probably going to get a good deal on them. HUD homes are pretty cool. And if you are going to live there, then they likely qualify for the FHA 203K loan, which means the government will lend you the money to buy the home and to rehab the home so that you can live there. But again, be careful because the government and their stipulations and their ability to overreach. If you think Tennessee is rough, try South Florida. Lewis Porter Jr., don't you encourage her. Don't you do it. You can go out and get whatever you want to. Go find some properties. Go make the opportunity. Be the opportunity maker. We just found a place in Montana for sale by owner for $30,000. Renters pay $650. If there's no major issues, it's in a county seat, small town. We're doing the inspection Tuesday. Nice. Good job, Henry Hawkins. MT stands for Montana, right? MN would be Minnesota. Montana, $30,000 for Montana. And there are renters in Montana. I can't believe there are renters in Montana. $30,000, $650 a month. I would buy that. I would buy that, Henry Hawkins. Confused as why there are renters in Montana. Aren't there like 100 square miles for every person? I'm being silly. Good morning. I've been trying to figure out how to say Goya so that I could pronounce your name properly. PropStream. Yeah, use PropStream. Everybody should use PropStream. I have 100K but live in SoCal. Should I go out of state to look for properties? Yes, you should probably move too. Yeah, I highly recommend. I think probably one of the world's best setup is to get a high-paying job in California and live as cheaply as possible and take all of your California high-paying money and invest it elsewhere. We actually, in the mastermind, the Sequism Mastermind group, there's one guy that I'm really proud of. He has a very high-paying job in Southern California. Like, I know what Northern California and Southern California is. I don't know. He has a high-paying job in California, and he is investing in Florida. And he actually just, him and his wife got on the same page, and they are actually moving to Florida, and he arranged it to where he's able to keep his job and work remotely now. So I think that is going to be a big deal. I'm really excited to see all of the opportunity now that all these big tech companies that are paying out boatloads of cash are allowing their people to work remotely. I think the smart ones are going to start moving away to markets that are much more affordable, where your high-paying Californian job, the dollars can stretch a lot further. And I think if you do this correctly, if you do it intentionally, it's going to be extraordinarily life-changing. I think you are going to be able to make progress by leaps and bounds. So he's already purchased one rental property in Florida. Now he's moving there, and he is actively looking for several more. He has a steep goal of buying 10 properties over like the next 12 to 18 months. So I'm really, really optimistic and really looking forward to hearing all of his progress. I just want to stop really quick and say thank you for being on the live stream. We've got 23 people on yesterday live stream. Last Friday's live stream, we were as high as 30 people at one time, and that made my heart feel real warm and fuzzy. Yes, I'm hoping for the Mexican restaurant too. That would be phenomenal. I would eat tacos there every day, and my heart would just be exploding with joy. Not tacos, but joy for just being able to help that place be a Mexican restaurant that serves delicious tacos. Thank you, SD, for hearing the experience. Don't fear giants. Canaan was full of giants, yet Caleb said, we shall go up and take the land, for we are able to conquer it. So go get it. Yeah, I like that. A little bit violent. I wouldn't suggest that we go take anything from anyone, but maybe go out and find a bunch of opportunity. Thanks for your help, Ryan. I began researching real estate investing this past month and found your page this week. Your content is very helpful. That means the world to me, Pat. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Smash the like button. I appreciate it if you do, but hey, you know what? I don't know. I'm not down for the YouTube algorithm. The things like this, Pat, I don't want to make content specifically to trigger the YouTube algorithm or whatever it is. I started doing that, and I was trying to, but you know what? My heart is one where I want to help people. I want to do live streams like this. I get a lot more pleasure in allowing people to ask me questions and give them answers, rather than just trying to make videos that hope they please the YouTube algorithm. So I'm kind of done with that. Thank you for everybody that's watching, but subscribing, liking, all of those things, I'm not really gonna say that too much. I do think that if this is helpful to you, then you should share it with somebody, because, I think that's probably realistically the only way that people are going to find me, other than the way that Pat found me. So thanks, Pat. What are the keys to go from 0 to 4 units in a short period of time? Are there things you would do differently now that you have more experience and confidence? Man, I think you are on the right track. I think now you got your first property under your belt. I think now what I would do is just continually take advantage of the 3.5 to 5% down for buying a home that you live in. So long as you can keep your wife on board, I would move as much as possible and just keep getting these properties under your belt. I mean, especially with the way that interest rates are extraordinarily low, I think that is the way to go. I think the way that my brother and I got our first 9 properties was such where we had to put 25% down on almost all of them. There were like 2 deals where we were able to get creative and buy it via seller financing. But other than that, and we still had to put like 10% down. So we put a lot of money down up front. We started with like 100 grand, I think. So the people that are saying on this channel that say they have 100 grand, well, I mean, you've got the ability to go out and make a big impact and really build a portfolio pretty quickly. So I think it was really difficult for us to just dump so much of our own money into things at first. So if you know, your first 4 units, it might be a little bit slower, but if you can get into those first 4 units at just 3.5 to 5% down, it might take you 3 years, but I think that's a phenomenal step. I mean, other than that, I think networking is really solid. I think constantly talking to every single person you possibly can about real estate investing will open up a ton of doors. So we recently purchased a home because the individual reached out to me because I was somewhere and I was running my mouth about investing in real estate. So before they sold their home, they reached out to me because they knew that I would probably be interested in buying it. And that meant the world to me. That was tons of fun. But all that to say, I mean, you're doing a phenomenal job in taking action. You know, I give you an A+ for taking action. And then I think you are doing a phenomenal job at educating yourself. So now I think the pieces that I would encourage you to do are regularly network. And I know the pandemic has made that a little bit more difficult, but networking, I think, is the piece that you're missing. And then also just every single chance you get, anybody, even if it's just somebody that you are sitting next to waiting on something, just start talking. Figure out how to get on their good side pretty quickly and talk about real estate investing. And generally, everybody loves talking about real estate investing. I have found that, so I tried to do the same thing with insurance, but people don't like talking about insurance. People think insurance is weird and lame and annoying. And if anybody has an opinion about insurance, it's either because they had a claim and they weren't treated the way that they thought they should be, or they're in insurance. Other than that, most people are just pretty meh about it. So when I started talking about real estate investing, I realized that the majority of people I ever talk to have strong feelings about it. And most times it's man, I've always wanted to learn more about that. I would love to get into real estate somehow. Oh yeah, I love watching those HGTV shows. People love talking about real estate investing. Or they'll tell you that they know somebody that had a few properties, and then they will tell you horror stories about having properties. And then they'll go on to tell you how scared they are to ever have any rental properties of their own because they're, quote unquote, just too conservative. So talk to everybody. Talk to everybody. My friend moved from Utah to California last March, doubling his salary. 3 months later, he moved back to Utah working remote with no pay decrease. Yes. The ultimate salary hack. I mean, I think, I'm pretty confident that that's going to continue to happen. But it's about time, right? I mean, you could only have so much money concentrated in one area before it spills over to everywhere else. So all of the things that are happening in California that allow people to, have extraordinary salaries. Yeah, I think it's just going to slip over now that everybody can work remote. All the lenders I've spoken with always ask 20% because it's an investment property. They tell me I can pay 3.5. They never tell me. Yeah, you can't. You can't when it's an investment property. If you want the 3.5 to 5% down, then you have to live there. So Phoenix, Arizona, this guy, he is living in the properties, then finding another property, and then buying that one and putting 3.5 to 5% down. If you do not want to move, if you just want to buy a property and from day one it be a rental, then yeah, you're right. It has to be at least. I've seen a few banks go as little as 15%. But if you only do 15%, then you're going to put PMI down too. So there is that. So yeah, I should clarify. If you want to take advantage of 3.5 to 5% loans, then that means they need to be owner occupied. You need to live there. If you do not want to live there, then you will be paying 15 to 20 to 25% down or more. And I think if you're not in a hurry, then moving a lot is one of the better things that you can do. Analyzing a property to live in as a rental property, living there for the shortest amount of time possible, or the shortest amount of time that your spouse is willing to between moves, and then doing it again. I think that's the way to go. Let's see. Any questions that I missed? Let me hop on over to YouTube, see if I missed any questions. People say I do that sometimes, and I blame StreamYard, the platform I'm using to do this. Let's see. Oh, this thing says 29 people are watching. That's exciting. What's good with you? Man, I'm happy. I'm so happy to see you on here. Let's see here. What did you say? It hasn't even showed up on here. And StreamYard is lagging behind. There we go. I purchased an investment property. I paid 20% down and purchased my rate of 3.5%. Columbus, Ohio resident. Right. Gotcha. Okay. So you can lower your interest rate if you choose to put more money down as well. 3.5% interest rate on an investment property, in my opinion, should be considered theft. So great job. I mean, so the average rate of inflation is 3.22% per year, and that was on average prior to our massive years or past year of printing money. So at some point, the inflation rate is going to catch up to us. And when you buy an investment property, or when you buy any sort of real estate and it's on like a fixed loan, especially a 3.5% fixed loan for 30 years, you are locked in. And that loan that you have will always and forever be in $2020, right? So it's not like they're going to print more money and now your loan on that property is going to go from $30,000 to the 2022 equivalent of $30,000. It's not going to be adjusted up to $50,000. So let's go back to, 2000, where, you know what, anything that I can say in the moment, since I'm live and not the smartest of fellas, is going to be wrong. So let me just try to oversimplify this for my own sake and say, in theory, if $1 in today's time was just a quarter in $2,000. So if you do the same thing, then the $30,000 or $30,000 loan that you just took out to buy an investment property, another 20 years from now, I mean, the loan's mostly going to be paid off, but you're going to owe like $5,000 to $10,000, which would be equivalent to, I don't know, $20,000 to $30,000 of future dollars. So the longer that you have the loan, the lower the amount truly is, especially at 3.5%. Absolute grand theft. That was a horrible explanation, and we just reached 30 people on the live stream. So thank you, and I appreciate all of those people that just signed on and watched me stumble through the math problem I created and failed all on my own. Can I have two properties and one mortgage? Yes. I spoke to a lady yesterday that has two properties and one mortgage, and there are two ways to do that. The way that she did it is she bought two properties that's on one parcel. So at some point, the person that owned that home decided they wanted to build another home in their backyard. The city did not separate the parcel because it was the same owner. So now it's just a 2-for-1 package deal. So the way that that bank is doing the loan is they're just doing one mortgage for both properties. So it's one purchase price, one loan, and it's just like one main property and a bonus property. The second way that you can do it is by doing like a blanket mortgage. So you can have two properties on one mortgage. My brother and I, like I've shared before, we just did a refinance where we refinanced 36 properties, and that is all on one loan. So 36 properties, one monthly payment. Now, there are cons to doing that, though. So let's say that you have two properties on one loan. Depending on how the bank sets that loan up, it might not be easy to pay off one property. So let's say you want one of the properties appreciates tremendously and you decide that you want to sell it. You need to figure out how the bank is going to treat you being able to take that property out of the loan, but keeping the loan on the other. There's some fine print that you have to look out for. We run away from old houses in Texas. Houses older than 20 years need new roof, and sellers don't want to give a discount for replacement. Sounds like opportunity to me. I wouldn't run away from a property because of a roof. I don't even, I love replacing roofs. Replacing roofs gives me peace of mind, especially now that I met this new roofing contractor that I like. He has 50-year warranties on his roof. Isn't that bananas? GAF is the manufacturer of the roof. And for the first 10 years, they have an unlimited wind warranty. So if 200-mile-per-hour winds come through, the house might not be there, but the roof's under warranty and they'll replace it, by golly. Full transparency, it costs about $800 to buy down from approximately 4.125% to 3.5%, which made sense to me in the long run. Absolutely, man. Yeah, that $800, especially since you are just, 0.28% above the average rate of inflation, you are crushing it. That's a phenomenal decision. Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm really, really thankful that you asked that question. And I'm really thankful for this fella being all fully transparent, talking about buying down interest rates. Incredible, man. 3.5% on an investment property. That's something that should go down in the record books. I want to say my brother down in Florida, we had a good laugh about this a while back. I think on an investment property, he got somebody, my brother's a loan officer or a loan originator, whatever you want to call him, down in Florida. And I think he just got somebody like a 2.25 interest rate on an investment property somehow. I don't know, but it's bananas. It shouldn't happen. It should not happen, but it did happen. And it's the right decision. So if you have the opportunity to buy a house in cash or finance a house at an interest rate below 4%, mathematically speaking, 100% of the time, it makes more sense to finance the property than it does buying the property outright in cash. At one point in my life, I was a Dave Ramsey purist. When I bought my first property, I did so in cash, and the returns were dismal. Let me look that up. Let me make sure I use that word right. Depressing and dreary. Yeah, just like the skies in Ohio were my returns on that property. Always makes sense to use leverage if you can get interest rates like that. I mean, I'm down with interest rates that are less than long-term, 30-year. If it's less than 7%, I'm happy because you figure when you factor in inflation, 3.22%. You're still at like a 3% loan or something like that, 3.5, 4% loan. I think that's solid. I think it's very solid. Awesome. All right. So there again are 30 people on the chat. So if you have any real estate investing questions, just type them in the comments and I will answer them. I will give you my opinion, which might be wrong. But I spent a lot of time thinking about my opinion, so there's something to be said for that. Let me go back to YouTube, figure out if I missed anything. I am so excited. This is my excited face, and I'm thrilled that there are 30 people on here. As soon as I see this number hit 31, let me know, guys. I would really like, because that would be an all-time high. That would be a record-breaking attendance. Let's see here. Scrolling through all the questions to see if I missed any. Lewis Porter Jr. asking me for updates. Lewis Porter Jr., what's the update with you if you're still on here? I know you're still looking for more properties to buy. Two years tax returns. Man, so far, I think we did a great job. Zoya Thomas. I'm going to learn how to say your name soon. How is your update? You made some moves with your husband, I think, on educating for real estate investing. Is he any more on board? Have you guys went around and looked at some properties together? It's 31. It has actually already hit 32. Man, this is the best day of my life. You guys are awesome. What is your favorite failure in real estate investing? I did this thing that I knew was wrong, Lewis Porter Jr. We got 4 properties from the city of Dayton in a program that's now defunct called Lot Links. And these properties, the way that Lot Links worked is if the properties were vacant for 2 years, if they were at least 2 years behind on taxes, and if all the utilities were off, you could put a down payment with the city. They would start a board of revisions foreclosure. They would see the foreclosure through. They would wipe away any of the liens. They would forgive all of the back taxes, and then they would deed you the property free and clear. So we got 4 properties, technically 5, but one was a vacant lot, utilizing that program. And one contractor told me that he could renovate all of those properties for $80,000. So I can't remember. I think I gave him $30,000 down. We had a timeline written out. It was awesome. Everything was beautiful. And then we agreed to pay him $8,000 every other week until all the properties were done. Well, at first, we were doing the demolition. So it was easy to make it look like a bunch of progress was being made. And then, lo and behold, the work started dramatically slowing down. So we got to, I think, paying them about $60,000. And then I was just like, okay, we do not, we only have 20 grand left on the balance, and we only have one finished property. So he really struggled. He got another property 60% complete, and then that was it. So for 60 grand, we got 1.6 properties finished of the initial 4 that were bid at 80. So there were a lot of other factors that went into that, but ultimately I paid way in advance compared to the work that was actually done. So I knew that it was wrong for me to prepay for some of this stuff, but it also happened in such a strange manner where at first the $30,000 that I put down, I thought was just for materials for all of the property, because since we would be doing all of them at the same time. because they were all very close in proximity to each other. So technically, I paid probably like $25,000 to $30,000 more than I should have, because the one that was complete was also the one that needed the least amount of work. I mean, that one was just a matter of paint and flooring and a new bath and new kitchen. So that was a pretty easy job. So I think that one was my favorite because, I had a gut feeling, Lewis Porter Jr., and I didn't listen to it. My multifamily seller financing deal melted down. 3 single family homes for $160 with $38 down, $525 a month, interest only, 3-year balloon. Why did it melt down? Looking at 31922 for $69.9, seeing if I can seller finance. Nice. That's a really good deal for Florida. What would that rent out for? That would rent out for like $800, $950 a month, right? In the area that you're looking at. Thank you. Yeah. 7 a.m. So you're Central Time. Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Any knowledge you may have on buying a farm? No, I don't know. I bought 17 acres once, and my wife and I built a house on it, and I probably wouldn't do that again. I don't think I would do that again. Any restrictions? I'd really love to have one in the future with a nice home here in the U.S. Man, wouldn't we all like a farm though? 875. I think farms are really solid. I think I really like all of the farmers that I've ever met. And when we bought the 17 acres, I lived right in the middle of a whole bunch of farms. But that's kind of owning a business. I guess you could lease the land to a farmer and have them utilize the area. I don't know. Right before I was leaving law enforcement, when I was getting very frustrated and wanted to make a change, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was trying very hard to figure out all of the options available to me, I really tried to figure out how to be a farmer. I'm happy I didn't, because I'm really thankful for where I ended up. But yeah, we had a bunch of chickens and a bunch of blueberry bushes, and I miss both of those things. My wife does not miss the chickens, though. And we had a hawk that kept eating our chickens. Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of lifestyle, and I mean, it's not like it's for everybody either. It melted down because they wanted cash, plus the 3 single-family homes were on 2 parcels with one house over the other parcel line by 5 feet, so much to deal with. That makes sense. One of the guys in the mastermind group just bought a property that had an easement issue as well, and an attorney was able to fix it in a matter of like 2 weeks. Now, granted, it's a lot to deal with. I completely agree with you there, but it could have been done. It could have been done, Lewis Porter Jr. He is more on board than I am now. He wants to mortgage our home, which we currently own outright, and I'm not comfortable with that. Why not? That's like the cheapest money you'll ever be able to get. So we will have to learn and plan together. We'll go to an REIA meeting. Cool. Yeah, the REIA meeting is a phenomenal place to start, but have all your antennas up. And don't buy anything. Don't be sweet talked into buying anything. I think the downfall of REIA is that the entire thing is set up to sell you stuff. So generally, the people that they have come in to talk to you give you like an hour to 2 hour quote unquote free lesson and wow you with a lot of things that you probably never thought about as far as real estate goes, and then they try to sell you like $1,000 course at the end of it. I guess that's the way that the world used to work before the internet. Just don't buy anything. But yeah, I think that's a great deal. And I would, again, personal preference and how comfortable you are, that is more important than anything else. So don't do anything that you're not comfortable with. But at the same time, if you were to mortgage your home or get a line of credit, you know what? That's probably what you should do. And I know a lot of people that have gotten lines of credits on their personal home. If you own it outright, the line of credit is going to be extraordinarily cheap money. You don't have to pay on it if you don't use it. You could use the line of credit to buy a property. Once you buy the property in quote unquote cash, because you're taking money from your line of credit to purchase a new property, you could then get that property renovated using your line of credit as well. You're going to add value. Then you're going to be able to take a mortgage out on your rental property that is now worth more because you purchased it and fixed it up. Then you could pay back your line of credit and do it all over again. So in theory, if you take out a home equity line of credit specifically to purchase rental properties, then in theory, you could buy and renovate an endless number of rental properties without ever technically using your own money. My brother and I have $70K saved. We're in our 20s, so credit isn't great. He worked 1 year, steady me 6 months. Will lenders work with us, or do you think we should start all cash? I don't think lenders would work with you. I don't think you should start all cash either. Boy, what a horrible answer that was from me. So first off, congrats on saving up $70,000. Congrats on being in your 20s. You're in like your highest. I like to tell people that are in their 20s that you are in your highest income earning years ever. And I think I went through the math problem last week, but pretty much ballparking it, every dollar you earn in your 20s is going to be worth at least 40 when you're in your 60s. So that's why I say that you're in your highest income. So even if you work for $10 an hour, you can potentially, if you save that, you're technically making your 60-year-old self $400 per hour. So that's really powerful. I don't understand why you've only worked steady for 1 year and 6 months, respectively. I think you should probably get a job because you are in the highest income earning years of your life. And truly, especially if you're starting with 70 grand and you're going to get 1 or 2 rental properties to start, it's not going to take up so much of your time that you don't also have the ability to work, even if it's a part-time job. I mean, if you're making like $15 an hour somewhere, you can qualify for a lot of loans based on that. So I would highly suggest that you two get some W-2 jobs, or really double down on your education and go as hard as you possibly can on real estate investing. But at the same time, without access to capital, it's going to be a tough road. And 70 grand is a lot of money. But in real estate investing, when a roof could cost 10 grand and mechanicals could cost 6 or 7 grand and a rehab cost 30 grand, and then unexpected things could cost some more grands, you can burn through 70 grand really quickly. So I think you're on the right track. I really like the way that you're thinking, but I would definitely encourage you to work very steady for a very long time and do real estate in your free time. Again, very feverishly, I'm not saying work for 30 years. I'm saying become bankable, exploit the bank money, and do that. Poor chickens. I really don't. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. That's that might be more comfortable. It's kind of like a credit card that is at better rates because it is secured by your house. And if you only have, let's say you pull out, 50 grand at 4%, you're only paying 4% on 50 grand. It's still amortized over the full year. So 50 grand times 4% divided by 12 is going to be your monthly interest payment, because the home equity lines of credits are interest only payments. And then if you only have it for, 6 months while you buy and renovate a house, then you're only paying 6 months worth of that 4%. Recently subscribed to your channel. Thanks, man. Thanks so much for your inspiration. Do you have any short-term rentals in your portfolio? Nope, I sure don't. And I had a long conversation yesterday with a lady that successfully does Airbnbs here in the area. She's also the best cleaner that I have ever used. So she was very, very motivational, but she is also the piece that is one of the hardest parts about the Airbnb. In my opinion, kind of the mental hurdle that I've had is The hardest part about real estate investing or renting properties is leasing and then the turns. So Airbnb kind of really magnifies both of those aspects. And I'm just not so sure that I want to spend the extra money. So most of the people that I have talked to in the Airbnb say that they make about twice as much money doing Airbnb as they do just having a rental. But at this point where we are in our portfolio, I'm not so sure that I want to work much harder or deviate from what we already have systems in place for just for twice the money. And I get that that sounds a little bit arrogant, but just from, me stepping out of what we normally do, taking on a lot more interactions. Like at this point, I think I spend like maybe 2 to 4 hours a week doing like the property management side of our portfolio. So I don't want to double the number of hours I spend just for one property to perform twice as good as it would if it were just to be included in what we already have systems in place for. But again, this could be just a mental shortcoming of me. Found a short sale deal for 110 grand. Short sale fee, 5,000, 4 bed, 3 bath, 20. That's a massive house. ARV 212, rental 1,600. Do you think hard money is advisable for this type of deal? It sounds good. I think, how much work does it need? If you need to put in more than like 40 or 50 grand, I would probably say no. I probably wouldn't look twice at this. And then you would have to come up with a way while you were renovating it to cover the hard money costs. So I think that should definitely be looked into. And then I'd also say hard money is tough on short sales because short sales take a very long time. They are not short. Thanks, Zach. I just found the channel this morning and really like what you have to say. Thanks. My wife and I are 26. You're the man. You guys are ahead of the game. And I almost finished with minor renovations on our first rental property. Nice. I am in Dayton, Ohio. Where are you? Where are you, Zach? Soya bean. Zoya? Goya? Is that how you say it? Goya? Zoya? Soya? Nice. Am I on it? Did I get it right? I hope so. Goya, soya, Zoya. Yeah, 26 is a great spot to start. I'm really excited. Really excited for you. I think being 26, finishing your first rental property, the snowball, you should be sitting really pretty by the time you hit 30. Just the way that the snowball works. And once you start getting everything rolling. Got distracted. I shouldn't get distracted on these calls, especially now that 30 people are watching. I feel honored. Northern Kentucky, just 10 minutes from Cincinnati. Nice. My favorite place to take my kids before this pandemic was the Newport Aquarium. So I'm not sure if you have any kids, but I really enjoy that place. And since I'm originally from the South, whenever I felt a little homesick when we first moved up here, I would just drive down to the aquarium and take my kids there so that I could kind of trick my brain into thinking that I was back in the South. It's the little things. It's the little things in life. Awesome. Win of the week. I was able to say your name right. Yep, I love it. Thanks. And thanks for being on here regularly. And thanks for making tons of progress. And thanks for making your husband more on board than he was. Because I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, you said that, nope, you're on board, but he is not down. So awesome. Cool. Let me go back over to YouTube, see if I missed any questions. And you guys, feel free to ask any questions that you may or may not have. I want to revisit this Airbnb thing because the reason is we just purchased a property that would be phenomenal for Airbnb. It's in a historic district. It's in an area that is very close to a lot of the nicer amenities, and I think it would make sense, but at the same time would also be a fantastic rental. So I've been trying to weigh the pros and cons. I know my brother has been interested in it as well. So one of the things that we are going to figure out is if it's even worth it. And then another cost that you kind of have to consider, even though you're making twice as you normally would on a rental, you're also having to furnish it. So I don't know. We really need to look into that math problem. I'm happy you asked this question. We don't currently. I think it might be a good thing, but at the same time, we have no experience with it. And it's tough when you've got a really good thing going pretty smoothly to deviate from that. So we're gonna look into it. I live in Raleigh, NC. The market is so high here, even in outskirt areas like Clayton and Smithfield. Fixer uppers. I can read. I can read very well. Fixer uppers selling for 130 square foot. Yeah, I mean, I lived in Raleigh before I moved to Ohio. I actually lived in I lived in, I know the zip code. I lived in 27617 for a little bit. That was the apartment. I lived in Briar Creek. And they kept raising the rent. They raised our rent to $1,300. And that was, I don't remember the year, probably like 2000. Actually, I do remember the year. It was 2012. They raised the rent to $1,300. And I said, you know what? That's silly. And I looked at my roommate and I said, if I bought a house, would you move in with me and pay half the rent or half the mortgage? He said, sure. So I bought a house. I was 23. I bought my first home and I accidentally house hacked it just because Briar Creek increased our rent too much. So I lived in that house from 23 to 26. And then we sold it. We used that to build a house on the 17 acres. And then we immediately sold that. And I never actually even, I lived in that house for such a short amount of time before we decided to move up to Ohio. And I wouldn't have half of what I have now as far as a portfolio goes if I were to have stayed in Durham, Raleigh, North Carolina. So I would say if you, and I mean, this is for anybody, regardless of the market, if you live in a market that's really high, like really question why you live there. I mean, yes, all of my family is in North Carolina. My brother lives in Florida. It is not, my wife's family does live in Ohio, but it's like 4 hours away in Ohio. We're not close to really anybody. We moved here because the opportunity was so great. And say what you will about Grant Cardone. He is a hard pill to swallow at times, and my wife gets frustrated each time she hears his voice and me watching any of his videos. But he really said, and one of the reasons that I even moved to Ohio was because of Grant and him saying, you know, if you want to increase your life, if you want to increase your income, and you don't live in an area with as much opportunity, then move. And you know, the whole reason that I thought about it is because. And when I first moved up here, I gave myself, I was like, okay, we're going to move up here for 5 years and we are going to accomplish as much as we possibly can. And then we're going to move back to North Carolina. But hey, Ohio, financially speaking, has done infinitely more for me and my family than North Carolina ever did. I love North Carolina. Never thought I would leave. But I'm really happy I did. And I did so just for the opportunity. So I say that with an asterisk of, yes, there are real estate investors in every market that are actively making money. So, you know, I've got some friends that are in the Raleigh, Chapel Hill market, Durham market that are making money doing what they do. It's different. It's less money, but they're still making money. So the opportunity is there. But I'm making much higher returns, you know, dollar for dollar than what I have been than those people have shared with me. So it's up to you. But I think what I really want to say to the majority of people is it's okay to move if you want to. And if you see that there is more opportunity in a different market, then go get it. Life is too short. Life is too short. The aquarium is great. Had passes there growing up. Even my high school prom was there. That is hilarious. A high school prom in an aquarium. Where in the aquarium was it? That aquarium is not that big. Did you just have like the whole thing rented out? The biggest place in that aquarium that I could think of are the stadium seats where you watch the penguins and that little cutout where the shark tank is. Other than that, man, surely your high school wasn't small enough to fit in that shark area. I'm walking through that whole place in my head trying to figure out, okay, there is that one place where the seahorses are too. Oh, that seahorse area is a lot larger than the shark tank cutout. But there's so many obstacles, and there's that big lobster in the middle. I love my present home. I don't want to move. You don't have to. You don't have to. I'm just saying, like, if you want to dramatically increase your financial position, then you have to do things drastically differently. And for me, we quote unquote built the home of our dreams where I wanted to stay forever because we had a bunch of acres and a nice house. And, we moved, I kind of considered it to be like a power play, right? Short-term, dramatic and drastic short-term sacrifices in order to increase our like long-term position. So you don't have to, make a sacrifice for very long. I mean, so I moved to Ohio in April of 2017. Nope, that's not true. I left law enforcement in April of 17. I moved here officially in October. So we sold our house, our 17 acres, and we bought a house in October. The house that we sold it for $215,000. The house that we purchased it for $69,000, $70,000. Our mortgage payment went from $1,400 per month to $450 per month. My income, I was making $44,000 per year, and I was in commission only for that first year. I think I made, I don't know. There were months where I made, $5,000, and then there were months that I made $20,000 because it was commission. It was very drastic. But my wife was able to get our living expenses below $2,000 per month. We lived in that $70,000 house until January of 2020. That we moved, 8 doors down, and we moved into a house so we moved from a 720 square foot house to now like a 20-something, like a 2,000 some square foot house. So it was ultimately a 3-year sacrifice tops, like 2.5-year sacrifice. But our portfolio went from 0 properties to in January of 20, we had 38 properties. So that was a massive, massive change. And it was just from the short-term sacrifice. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to move. Nope. Good job on having a roofing company. But I don't know. I disagree. I'm not down to say that opportunity has passed. I think it has. It's just how creative can you be? How much time do you have to put into it? And it truly may not even be the point where if you have a roofing company, if your business is doing well, real estate investing might not be the best opportunity for you or the best use of your time. I think if you were to put it out over like 30, 40 years, maybe, because, especially, I don't know how roofing companies are valued. I don't know how the valuation is done on roofing companies. I don't know how much of an asset your business are. Some businesses are phenomenal for cash flow, but they don't have much of a resale value. And I think it's generally service industries, labor intensive jobs where you have to have a crew running all the time. I don't know. I don't know what I'm speaking about, but I would say if you wanted to get into real estate investing, there are still phenomenal opportunities out there, even in your market. But at the same time, I'm going to back myself up too. I'm going to say you can make a lot of money in Raleigh in real estate, or you could do something even crazier and like start a roofing company up here in Ohio and buy up all the businesses or all the properties. Because there's one thing's for sure, man, we need a lot of roofers here in Ohio. Guess I'm partial as I work for a short-term vacation rental company, which we use a tablet so guests report issues via tablet or their smartphone, minimizes hands-on work and use technology to assist. Yeah, I mean, I would love to learn more about it. Send me an email if you don't mind. I would love to get a better understanding, because I definitely think there are a few properties in our portfolio that would do very, very well as Airbnbs, but I just don't have the enough knowledge to make that decision. There's a ballroom that overlooked the river that is only for events. Oh, gotcha. That's cool. That's cool. That's a lot better than packing yourself in the shark room. How would you weigh state taxes versus affordable housing prices? Currently live in upstate Western New York with affordable house prices, but high state and local taxes. I think taxes are always going to be higher than they should be, right? And I think everybody is going to think that they pay more in taxes than they should. And when it comes to rental properties, I don't really think it matters, because, hey, if the state raises or the municipality raises the property taxes, then the residents' rents get raised. I mean, property taxes is one of those things that on paper you pay it, but it's also kind of baked into the rent. All of them. All of them. Nice personal story, Ryan. My sister and her husband, who is stationed in Ohio State University, is an Army ROTC instructor. Love it out there, but it's too dang cold for this Texan. I don't blame you there, man. It's 18 to like 25 degrees over the past couple days. But hey, I got to be honest, man. I'm a big boy and I run hot. So when I moved to Ohio, I was very apprehensive about how cold it would be. But man, when it's winter, I can walk outside for a couple of miles and never break a sweat. I feel like a spry little guy. Brother in college before 1 year ago, welder, full-time mom student before 6 months ago, nurse degree in one semester, but currently 1,000+ week off. DoorDash 500 week. Oh, that's completely different than what I thought you meant earlier. Hey, words are good. The more words you use, the more specific what you're talking about becomes. Yeah, no, DoorDash and $1,000 a week is fantastic. And I don't know what that other thing you said is, but that's plenty. I mean, you're doing really well. Once you do, so I mean, yeah, those companies are going to 1099 you, and you don't have a W-2 job, but those things are your income. So once you have done that for quite some length of time, you'll become bankable. There are a bunch of guys out there that only DoorDash and only do like Uber or Lyft, and are very bankable individuals. It's a very good business. No, you're doing really well. Actually, the good friend of mine that bought the 4-unit that just got out of the Army, he DoorDashed a lot. And, he has allowed me to say this, but, he, at the beginning of last year, he had $300 to his name, and a bunch of debt. And now he has almost no debt, over $20,000 in the bank, and his first 4-unit. So he has made leaps and bounds of progress, all on the backs of DoorDash. He also, works a W-2 job, but it's not like it's a high-paying job. He gets paid I think it's like $14 or $15 an hour. So, yeah, and that's okay. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And whenever I make it back down to Raleigh, yeah, send me an email, man. I really like connecting with the Raleigh people. And I also have some people in Raleigh that it may be beneficial for you to meet if you are interested in that. Paul Maskell, you should check him out. Paul. That's how you spell Paul. Common spelling. His last name, Maskill, Maskill. You should check him out. He is local to Raleigh, and he really helps small business owners. And he like specializes in helping like service industry people get their systems and processes in place. So he has really helped a lot of businesses grow. And he's just a phenomenal stand-up guy, also in Raleigh. And he's looking to become a real estate investor as well. So I think that would be a really solid. No, I think that'll be a really solid connection. Let me finish that sentence before my squirrel brain sees a new comment. Do you foresee any market crash in real estate? Not if the Federal Reserve keeps the interest rates low. And I don't think the real estate market is ever going to crash per se, right? So the thing that's kind of silly about this all this talk about market crashes is it's not like real estate is this one homogenous market that can all crash simultaneously, right? The Dayton market is completely different than the Cincinnati market. And the Cincinnati market is going to crash before the Dayton market crashes, right? And the reason I say that is Cincinnati has had the most amount of, it's had much more appreciation. It has had much more new construction. The Dayton market, by most metrics, is still a very depressed market that's constantly losing population, right? So those are what the numbers say. So it's unfair to compare the Dayton market to the Cincinnati market for all the different little metrics and variables that you can look at. And it's even more exaggerated when you try to compare like San Francisco to Dayton, right? It's just apples and oranges. So the higher, more affluent, more built up markets will crash much, much sooner than the Rust Belt depressed markets where you could still buy homes for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So there's insulation in being in a depressed market already, because since we're already much closer to the bottom, how much further down can we go? Like if you can buy a house that is rent ready for 40 grand, how much less can that house be worth truly, right? And then if the Federal Reserve keeps the interest rates as low as they are, then there's still going to be a shortage of inventory on homes because all these people have new access to money, are getting approved for loans that didn't otherwise, and all of them want to buy homes. So I don't see a market crash happening in that perspective. And because I am pro assets and commodities and anti fiat currency, I will say when a correction happens, it does not have any impact on the actual value of real estate. Rather, it's going to take much more fiat or less fiat to purchase that real estate, right? So it's more of a reflection of our currency than it is of our properties. -7 degrees for a week here. 25 degrees sounds like spring. Oh my goodness, Cassandra Young, you are completely correct. The sun was out. Normally the skies are really gray, but the sun was out a couple days ago and it was like 28 degrees and I was ready to take my jacket and my long sleeve shirt off. I felt like it was summertime. I'll just type it right here. How's that? Ryan at seekwisdom.us. Bam. You know what? I did that, but I also have one of these little banners. Ta-da. And then I also have a banner here for this mastermind group, Ryan at seekwisdom.us. If you feel like joining the mastermind group. But let me put my disclaimer up that says, back up, that says I don't know what I'm talking about. Or post your questions in the chat. There we go. That's encouraging because you already know who I am. I'm Ryan Ingram. Let's see here. How will Elon's mission to inhabit other planets change real estate investing? You're funny. This is a good friend of mine. His name is Andrew Banks. I like him a lot. His wife/fiance watches our kids. Yeah, man. Look at that support. I'm happy that you're on here, man. That's really fun. I don't think it will, man. And I think, I don't know. I think at first it's going to really like drastically reduce the amount of drama here in America on Earth, because at first, before there's that long of a history of like space travel and colonizing other planets, I think the crazies I think the crazy people are going to move to other planets first. I attended virtual RIA this weekend and was asked to pay 20 grand to join their big dog association. Yeah, they're snakes. They're snakes. There's good content. Like I found when I first got into real estate investing, I found an extraordinary amount of the free, like 1 hour, seminars or lessons that they gave to be very helpful and eye opening. But then they dropped massive dollar amounts, like this $20,000 to like buy their course. And I got to tell you, there was this one time I was very interested in this 1 hour course. And I really liked this fella. And he was asking for a very reasonable amount of money for his full course. And his full course looked awesome. It was like 5 binders, CDs, thumb drives, tons of stuff. And I bought it. I sure did. And I scoured through those binders, the thumb drives, the documents, the forms, everything. And I could count fewer than 10 pages that I thought were helpful that he didn't mention inside of his little 1 hour. So never again will I pay any money for a course. Similarly, that's why I love giving all this information out via the internet to you guys and not ask you for anything. Because, I'm going to concentrate hard. This is going to be the first time I say it on the fly. Like Zoya pointed out last week, the Ecclesiastes 1:9. There's nothing new under the sun. I mean, real estate investing, we've got a duplex that was built in the 1800s, and it's been a cash flowing, income producing property since the 1800s. So it's not like there's anything new to talk about in real estate investing. All this information is out there. It's just where to find it. And you shouldn't have to pay some course, especially not 20 grand. 20 grand for what? I think community is more important. That's why I'm comfortable charging for the mastermind. The mastermind is $300 per month, but it's an hour a week. The groups are limited to 10 people. And it's just a group of dudes that we go deep. We help each other with personal issues, professional issues. We encourage each other. There's some really successful people in there, and it's a phenomenal group. So I'm really, really thankful for the community aspect, but it is diametrically opposed to paying for a stagnant, static course full of age-old information. Will you post this video on your YouTube channel? Yes, all of the live streams are posted. So for a beginner, would you suggest a rental property, single family in winter, or waiting until the summer to see what you're fully getting into? Ooh, that's a good question. The only thing that is different is the roof. And fortunately, like I mentioned earlier, I have 2 really awesome roofing people that I like a lot. And they have given us phenomenal pricing on replacing roofs. And once I replace a roof, they now come with 50-year warranties. So I don't mind replacing roofs because, 10 grand to replace a roof that will last 50 years is a pretty good deal. So I wouldn't mind buying a property now. I'm a huge advocate against. So I do not condone ever sitting on the sidelines. I think sitting, waiting around is a horrible game plan. One that you should never deploy. Are you a member of Real Estate Investors Association of Greater Cincinnati? I joined 6 months ago or so, thinking about leaving until in-person meetings start again. Not sure if it's worth it for me. No, I'm not a member. I'm not a member at all. I was at one point, and I was for a little bit for my insurance agency. Because it was decent advertisement for the insurance agency, but I don't know. I started finding about 1 out of every 10 speakers helpful. And Before this pandemic happened, I was going to all the Greater Dayton RIA events, and I was about to start going to the Cincinnati RIAs for the insurance agency. But once this pandemic started, and once I got to start spending every single weeknight at home with my family, man, we eat dinner together as a family 7 nights a week. And that has become far more important to me than whatever any speaker could possibly say. And that is also the reason that I'm doing these live streams and asking you guys, pleading with you guys to wake up early on a Friday morning to hang out with me. It's because I don't want to eat into family time at all. So I am never going to go back to any nighttime events whenever things start opening back up. Thank you. Thank you. Private group, do you guys JV with new investors? No, I don't think anybody JVs with anybody. I'm not necessarily a fan of JVing with people unless it's like a flip, but I don't do flips. But I think I've heard of a few guys doing JV. So there's one guy in the group that did a JV with another guy that's not in the group, but it's a new investor. It's on a flip. The guy in the group is putting up 100% of the money. This guy's doing 100% of the work, and they're splitting the profits. And the guy in the group, he's got like 100 properties. He's very experienced. He has a lawn care business as well, very successful by all accounts. And he was mentoring this guy through how to rehab this property. So there was that. But that's the one time that that I know of that somebody has like JV'd with somebody else. Thank you. Ryan Baker. I come from the Dave Ramsey way of saving. Yeah, same here. I haven't decided on how to grow my portfolio, cash only versus no money down versus a hybrid that maintains a debt to loan value somewhere in the middle. Thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts on this. I would prefer to do this on a phone call with you. So shoot me an email. I'll put my email back out. But you know what, though? You know what? Let me be bold and let me get my thoughts together and let me try and say this accurately. So at one point, I was a Dave Ramsey purist. I bought my first duplex in cash, $35,000. The returns not so great. There was a combination of things that were in play there. The first is that I had a bad property management company that nickel and dimed every single opportunity they had. I think it was just one duplex, man, but there was like so many minimum service call fees on a monthly basis that at the end of the month, I only made like $140 is what made it into my bank account. And that was after collecting $1,000 of gross rents. So not good. And when I was getting truly that $35,000 that I had invested, I invested it elsewhere first, right? I did like one hard money loan for somebody. I had some money in like Fundrise. All of it did better than me buying that property in cash. The second property I purchased, it was a $28,000 property. I went to a bank and got a loan, a $21,000 loan on the property. The interest rate is 5%. The monthly mortgage payment is $112.73. The property is rented out for $770 per month. I changed management companies. The new management company gave me gross rent minus their management fee every month. The returns on that far, far surpass that $35,000 cash return from a cash on cash perspective. So I think when you're talking about real estate, since it is a income producing, cash flowing investment, leverage will always be better. From a personal risk tolerance perspective, totally up to you how you want to factor in how much cash you have in these deals versus whatever else. To tidy up another thing that you said about your, debt to loan, I think personally, on a Ryan Ingram perspective, I still adhere to most of what Dave Ramsey says. I think that all consumer debt is bad. I don't want much to do with credit cards. I do like to use them for points, especially because of just the sheer amount of money that we spend now. on, on some of these rehabs. So our business credit card, we try to run everything that we can through that, because we spend boatloads of money now taking after these properties. I think Dave Ramsey's ideas, I think everything that Dave Ramsey has to say is extraordinarily fair, and I think he's probably right. If you are the type of person that absolutely loves your day job, your W-2, whatever you do for a living, if you don't want to do anything else ever for the next 30 years and you want to be able to retire well, happy, feeling safe and secure, if that is the type of individual that you are, then everything that Dave Ramsey could possibly say and teach you is probably gospel. I don't want to work anywhere for 30 years. I don't, I'm not even so sure I want to work for myself for 30 years. I have a very high risk tolerance, and I think that if I were to lose everything and go bankrupt, then the younger I do it, the better, so that I have more time to recover, right? But once you separate yourself from your business and you start treating your business finances completely different than your personal, I still adhere to most of what Dave Ramsey says on a personal basis. But as far as the businesses, when we can utilize other people's money in a very safe, stable, secure way and generate even more money, then why wouldn't we? And at this point, my brother and I don't have any of our own money into our rental portfolio. So at this point, we are making infinite returns. So how could you argue that? I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I did my best to articulate it. Huge fan of Dave. Don't want to say anything against him. I think everything that he is teaching is very beneficial. I think the world needs much more financial education than we already have. But the only part that I really disagree with is the concreteness and this is the right way, everyone else is a moron type approach. Different strokes for different folks. Like Zoya on here earlier. If she feels better having her house paid off, then don't you dare take a mortgage out on it. That wouldn't be good for you. That wouldn't be good for your stress levels. That wouldn't put you in a good mental spot or whatever. But if you're comfortable with that and you want to utilize those funds to make even more money, because once you extrapolate the returns over the next 30, 40 years that you get from the money, you're really going to see the positive impacts on utilizing other people's money rather than your own. Hope that was helpful, Ryan Baker. I went to Merrill Lynch seminar for $200 and they were charging $6,000 for the real estate course. I was disappointed. Yeah, people charge a lot of stuff. What way overseas investments can flow? I have a few clients on the insurance side that live in different countries, from Canada to Israel to some Middle Eastern places. Don't know exactly where. 15,000 in rehab. I'd probably try to do that deal. I would do that deal. 200 and something thousand ARV, $1,600 a month in rent for a total outlay of cash of what, 130,000. That's pretty solid. I'm not mad at that at all. You get 100 grand of equity, which you could borrow against to carry over to your next deal, and you get $1,600 a month in gross rents. That's a good deal. And you could also invest. You could find some funds to invest in, or you can just try and buy properties. But you can buy properties in America without being an American citizen. After team no debt and no mortgage, it is a mental shift to use debt for investment. It is. Yeah, I completely agree. It's a big mental shift. And if it's one that you're not comfortable taking, then you shouldn't. And I mean, I think the beautiful thing about real estate investing is there are so many different ways to do it. There are so many different ways to make an extraordinary amount of money investing, that you shouldn't pin it down to just one. I love single family homes, and I get flack for that from all the multifamily guys that I ever speak to. Multifamily, if you are team multifamily, then you are likely of the same mindset of like the Dave Ramsey clan that just says anything that is not this way is stupid. And it's just not true. There's so many different ways, and they all are valid, and they all have their own set of problems and pros and cons. So it really depends on your personal personality, what the problems that you want to deal with are, and where you want to go long term. It's all up to you. No, not really. Probably doesn't happen often. I bought a property recently that has a squatter in there. Working with my attorney to figure out how to get him out. That's as close as I can come. Close as I come. Generally, before the property is actually sold at a foreclosure, the sheriff comes in or the deputies come in, kick anybody that's living there out, change the locks, get everyone out, or the bank would buy it. The bank kicks everybody out. Somebody is generally always there to kick people out beforehand. I have one insurance client that bought a house from a sheriff's sale that was still occupied. And I don't know how that happened. And I don't know why that happened. I'll talk to him today and figure out why. That's a great question. And I don't even think I have the hang of it now. I think that's the funny thing about wisdom, which is near and dear to my heart. I did this last time where I just made one tiny move and I showed my Scrabble tiles that say wisdom. There we go. I think the more you learn, the more that you realize you don't know. So I think once you stop learning, you really start dying very quickly. I think, I'm learning a lot every day on the investing side of things. And I'm always dealing with new things or new situations that I didn't know about. So, yeah. I remember having 9 properties because I was really excited to cross that 10 threshold. And I remember when I had 9 properties, I was extraordinarily scared. I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And I felt like probably some of the sentiments that Ryan Baker and Zoya are talking about of, man, I am getting in so much debt. If anything goes wrong, I'm extraordinarily vulnerable. And I remember being really optimistic, knowing that I needed to acquire more, but being very scared about all the potential downside. And then we almost overnight went from 9 properties to like 22 properties. And when we hit 22 properties that's when the portfolio really started taking care of itself. So that's when on a monthly basis. So when we had 9 properties, I remember my brother and I, at the end of every month, we'd have a phone call that was very uncomfortable, and we would be trying to figure out how much money we each needed to put into the business to keep it alive for another month. And then when we had 22 properties, that's when we realized, okay, those conversations, not only did the income from all of the properties cover all of the repairs and maintenance items, there was also money left over. And, now, let's see here. So we started 2020 with 38 properties, and we ended the year with 85 properties. And now we are a little over 90. So we've been growing very quickly. And I would say sometime towards the end of last year is finally when I felt like, okay, I really probably know what I'm talking about and can help people. And I think that's about the same time I started this YouTube channel. So there's a long-winded, slow answer. Thank you, Rentals and Rehabs. What's up, Edwin Janeo? What's the best way to calculate ARV? Prop stream, Edwin Janeo, prop stream. I do that very regularly. I had a long conversation. I should probably do a video on it about how. So we have been working with one appraiser for a couple properties now, and we had like a 30 to 45-minute phone call not long ago, and she really helped me dial in and understand what she's looking for in comps, how to run comps appropriately, and all of that. So before PropStream and before that conversation with the appraiser, I would say the best way to run comps would be to be extraordinarily familiar with your market and know what things sell for in your market. And just, for years, all I did was look at Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, the MLS, anywhere that I could get property information. And I'd go through like all the sold data, all the sale data, and when things went pending, I wanted to know, exactly what it went pending for. And fortunately, the more intimate that you get with one area, you can really start picking up, like, you can truly see that, like, in different years and different eras, builders just ran through one part of town with like 3 different building options. And, then 20 years later, another builder came through with 2 options. So you can really start picking up like what these cookie cutter pattern properties are worth depending on the area that they're in. But now, you could utilize PropStream. I need to put the link up here somewhere. And you can run your own comps, and you can really dial in which properties you include in that comp report. And you can really come up with something very accurate. May we have a close-up of the titles on the bookshelf behind you, please? I don't know how to move like that. They're all The Wealthy Gardener. You know what? I'll make a post afterwards on that, like, community. I'll do that. Thanks, man. I'm happy that was helpful. Good morning, Ryan. Do you recommend buying foreclosure listings? Absolutely. I love foreclosures. I think they're really cool. Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for being on here. I hope everything with your family's going well, man. I like that Christmas photo. Any advice on getting our house appraised for HELOC? We figure we need a few repairs first. Yeah, I would say repairs should probably be done beforehand. But I'd also say that some of the repairs that you're probably thinking about making probably won't affect the appraisal amount too much. So I would only focus on the big ones. Like if you have a really old roof, I might put a new roof on. I don't know. Your local credit union, like there's a credit union up here that they actually give out a HELOC for 100% of the appraised value. So if you find a credit union like that, then I would say the repairs don't really matter too much. It sounds like you're in a really strong financial position. So I wouldn't worry about spending 10 to 15 grand to get an extra 10 grand on your line of credit. And I don't think that would make much sense. Dropping in man, Mr. Magic Harmon, I appreciate you dropping in, man. Thank you. Thanks for watching. You and your brother have set the goal of 350 units. All right, man, look at you doing your homework. How did you reach that number? Is it based on the number of people you plan on supporting or length of time you plan on supporting them? That's a phenomenal question, man. I'll have to get back with you on that one. I don't know how we came up with that. I can tell you, though, that our goal of getting to 120 properties by June is solely based on the amount of income that we'd be able to pay ourselves once we get 120 properties stabilized, just doing like some income projections. That's how we set the 120. As far as the 350, that's our 3-year goal. My brother, especially after we successfully did it last year, we went from 38 properties to 85. he really wanted to double our portfolio each year for like 3 years. And I think that's what 300, I think that's where 350 came from, by doubling in size each year. So let's do that. So we started this year with 85 properties. So 170 is what we should end the year with. Did I do my math right on that? I think I did. Yeah, so then the following year would be 340. Yeah, so that's where that number came from, not based on income projection. Originally, our goals were around us being able to pay for all of our kids' college, because I have 4 kids, my brother has 3 kids, and between us, we're going to be shelling out a lot of money for college at one time. So that's where the original goals came from. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Man, I feel so honored that you dropped in. I miss you, man. Let's catch up soon. Do you only post on YouTube, or do you have other social media? I had a Parler account for a little bit and they shut it down. I'm on Instagram, but I just, I'm very careful about social media in general. And one of the things that I strongly dislike is, like, let's say, I'm on Instagram and I want to look at one person's real estate thing. Out of nowhere now, Instagram is overloading my brain with other things that I should also look at. And if you're not careful, time really slips away from you. So I do my best not to get on anything, even if it is just promoting myself. So YouTube is a platform where I feel comfortable posting on, where I don't feel like my brain is getting hijacked when I log on. So I do my very best to be very protective of my brain and what goes into it. And when you open up some of these social media platforms, it's like having a supercomputer just pointed at your brain and trying to think of anything that it might think that you like. So it keeps you on for an extra 5 minutes. And I hate that feeling of my brain getting larcenated. So I appreciated Parler because I subscribed to, what's that comedian's name? Awaken with JP Sears. Yeah, I subscribed to him because I thought he was funny. And when I went on to Parler, I only saw things that he posted. I didn't get any recommendations or anything like that. So I was actually going to say, for that very reason, hey guys, don't get your brains hijacked. Just come over here and get exactly what it is that you asked for to connect with me. But then they shut it down. So no, I don't have any other social media aspects. I'm on Instagram, but I don't check it. I think I have a Facebook, but I don't check it. I stay very far away from it. I don't have Messenger on my phone. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I don't have Instagram on my phone. Yeah. How long have you and your brother been in real estate? We bought our first property in August of 2017. That's when we bought that duplex in cash for $35,000. So that's been a lot of fun. All right. Well, any other questions? We have been going for 2 hours and 21 minutes. This is a good time. This is a really good session. I've got about 15 minutes left. So if you people have been holding off asking any questions, let's hear them. Man, Ryan Baker, I'm still impressed with that question. Thanks for asking something really specific. That's really cool. How many properties did you purchase in the first year? Does the bank limit you? The bank doesn't really limit you. The bank does limit you. So if you're doing like Fannie Freddie loans, then each person can only have 10 properties. If they're Fannie Freddie, if they're not backed by the federal government, if the banks are holding them in their personal portfolio, there's no limit to how many properties or how many homes you can buy. If they are commercial loans, then there's no limit to how many properties you can buy in the commercial side. The only reason that the federal government limits it is because that's where you get the longest term and the lowest rate, because the federal government backs it up. So they don't limit you in the sense of The bank says I can only buy 5 properties this year. The banks do limit you in the sense of, sure, this is most certainly a property that we would lend on, but you don't have an appropriate amount of money or the appropriate amount of experience for us to do another deal for you. So that's when you have to focus on building up your bank account, your reserves. If you are utilizing your own money, you have to, show that you have X number of dollars. We waited around for a long time to work with the banks because they wanted to see that we could successfully be real estate investors. So they wanted to see us be real estate investors for like 2 years. And that's why we really started switching to the private investor model where we solicited, no, we didn't solicit, where we started talking to like friends and family to get them to invest with us by giving them first position mortgages on properties. So, one person would be the bank for one property. And when you do that, all of the limitations that the bank sets on you, that it's up to that individual friend or family member. So if the family member doesn't mind lending 55 grand on a house that you're buying for 45 grand, then they're paying for the purchase price and the repairs that you're going to make for it. And then you just have to hope that the appraisal will come in 25% higher than your purchase price. So if the property appraises at 80, then you could get a $55,000 loan on the property, and then you can pay off your investor, and then you don't have any of your own money in the deal. So that's kind of how we circumvented the bank's like limitations. So this 36 property refinance that we just did, we paid off a ton of like private investor first position mortgages. And we even got a little bit of money back. Nope. So I would disagree with that, Greg C. Sure, his return on investment may be higher immediately, like right now, but I highly doubt that it will be if you look down 30 to 40 years down the road. Because you got to remember, when it comes to real estate investing, you get the principal pay down, the appreciation, the cash flow, and all of the tax benefits. So you don't get anything but arguably the cash flow from options trading. There's no asset. There's no appreciation. I guess you could argue that inflation. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. I think that real estate investing is hands down the best long-term way to invest. Well, unless you all have anything else for me. I'm gonna get out of here. Going once, going twice. I appreciate you all being on here. This has been tons of fun. And we're still at 26 people, which is bananas since generally for the past couple of weeks, there's only been about 10 to 14 is what I've been averaging. So the fact that there are 26 people on here, I really appreciate it. And we hit an all-time high of 34 people on here at once. So, hey, every Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be on here to answer any questions that you have. So thanks so much. I appreciate you guys. And next week on Friday, I'll see you then.